Hey,
Hi,
everybody. Oh, sorry.
yeah, go, you go.
Okay, so welcome to this Stories of Strength recording session, the workshop yarn, and my name's Dean Foley, and I'll be in the background, but on behalf of Community News Hub Aboriginal Corporation and the Stories of Strength project, it's great to have you here to create awareness around some of the issues and education materials. Today's session is safe storytelling, consent. You'll hear about Dixie's personal history, some little baby in the background, but we're very pleased to be joined by Dixie Link-Gordon, who brings strong legal and community experience to this yarn. Dixie will speak to, her own story and consent, privacy, boundaries, and how people can share or support stories without causing future generational harm. So, Dixie, thank you for joining us and for contributing your knowledge for Stories of Strength. So, I'll hand over to you.
Well, thank you so much, Dean, and I appreciate the invite to come and talk. Yes, my name's Dixie. I'm a Grang woman living in Gadigal country for at least 46 years now. How did I get into working and being part of the anti-violence movement, the anti-domestic violence movement specifically, and the awareness around sexual violence? I don't believe it was a mistake. I believe that I was to meet so many people as a young mum with 5 children, so many really good women who were in and around the Redfern community. Redfern, who for those who aren't aware, is the to quote a very well known artist and women's movement lady, Colony Quayle, was the Black Mecca, and that's how it felt for me coming from Brisbane, and as a very young person, and then making a life down here and growing up my 6 kids and my 30 grandchildren. Oh, being part of the lives of my 30 grandchildren and my 5 great grandsons. So it has been a journey, and coming from Brisbane, which was, a pretty, it was a pretty up and down childhood, and where unfortunately unresolved violence and abuse was a little bit of, it wasn't just a little bit, it was a big part of my childhood. So trying to find a place where I felt that I belonged and I could move through it, life in a more safer way was something that I really strive to do. And I always felt, well, what's going to be scary out in the big wide world, when it was pretty scary where I had come from as a child. So one of the turning points for me would definitely have to be was being inspired of the unity that we showed as Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in 1988. I just had my 5th child, and I went in that massive march from Redfern down to Central. I felt so proud. I felt so I was just in my element of feeling so much love for our mobs and us all just coming together and being and doing and knowing that we are the first peoples of this country. So that was something that's so significant in my life. And I just thought, pushing the kids, and they're doing. I'm more than just a mum of 5 children. There's stuff that I know that I was I wanted to do something about. I didn't know how to do it. How was I gonna, find this journey of safety and be able to live and breathe by it for my life? So fortunately for me, I was to meet a very beautiful woman who was already working in the women's movement, and she's seen me, and she asked me what I was doing. At the time, I was at the local preschool doing a mum's program course. So I was just joining other mums. I had a couple of kids in the preschool. She says, we have a part-time traineeship job going. Do you want to come? And so I end up going over to and getting this traineeship, where I end up staying for a couple of years. And it was called Stepping Out Housing, and it was housing for women who had experienced sexual violence. And so became my introduction and my pathway to learning and understanding more about what you can do, where you can go when you have experienced acts of physical, sexual, and mental violence. So, look, was able to do lots of different courses. Meanwhile, I had a sister who was down at the university, had a beautiful preschool that was supporting young mums and their children, and I just went on to stay in that pathway. So I was there for a couple of years, and then when I went on to have my sixth child, by that time I was at another organisation, was for homeless women, and I used to do the graveyard shift there, and I think I worked there till I was about 7 months pregnant, and I used to work with homeless women. Had my baby, then I went for a job at one of the oldest women's establishments at the time, women's programs organisations. So that was the South Sydney Women's Health, and I started working there when my daughter was about 3 months old, and I stayed with that organisation as it transitioned over to an Aboriginal women's organisation by 1992. So that was 4 or 5 years after our 1988 march that I really felt that I was walking in my pathway around safety and finding and learning that my right to be safe was my basic human right too. So stayed around there for a while, got the privilege of being involved in, the first domestic violence court assistance programs that they ran here in the state, and alongside my very good friends. And it was, for me, it was just a wonderful journey, and something that I've grown up with. I was, later further be able to go on and get a degree in community management, and just do many courses that were interrelated with my work that I was doing around the safety of women. And, our right to be safe, and our right to say that if I'm going to have a family and have children, this is about us being safe, and how those decisions were being made. Colonisation, as we know, has played a very harmful impact on us and our families, and where we go and what we do. I had, beautiful grandmothers who really did their best for myself and my sisters. I was the eldest of 9 girls from my father's side, and from my mum, I was the second eldest after my beloved brother. So, we it was a journey for us, and growing up in the very early '60s was we were still the fauna and flora of the country. We weren't yet respected for who we were as First Nation people of this country. So for me, learning about safety and protection has been a life, self-protection, self-preservation, however you want to say it, has been a lifelong journey for me, and someone who now I am in my 60s, and I'm watching my own family grow up, and how we respond and how we walk through this life, and do the best we can for each other. Because I'm always of this belief, if we're not going to do it, we can't expect anybody else to do and take us on a journey of safety. It's a journey of a safe lifestyle where our kids are going to grow up healthy, where we're not constantly have our back up the wall, for constantly fearing that guilty of nothing that we've done, and that's a big thing. Just feeling shame about being a black fella. Well, no, not that's not going to happen. And I think that I know that I found that in Redfern, where people, do walk around with pride. They do want to do better, and people are, like so many beautiful places across Australia, and people are doing the best they do in their on their country and in their towns and cities, the remote communities. Everybody wants to be able to get up in the morning in peace, go to sleep in peace, and know that your children and your elders and your family are at peace. So I have had a wonderful, it's been a wonderful journey, at times very challenging. And going into any community, which is a lot of my work has unravelled to be, is, being a community advocate and going to share and speak with others and find out what other people are doing around the state. And, at the moment, I'm supporting a team of wonderful workers who are doing primary prevention and talking about what that looks like for us as Aboriginal mobs all across New South Wales, and one of my more passionate jobs is the Breaking Silent Codes network. And it's not so much an organisation, it's a networking with other people who've had the experience of sexual violence. And what are we doing to take care of ourselves? I've been fortunate to go to the United Nations and present and meet some very wonderful women in the CSW, the Commission for the Status of Women. So I've met some great friends there, and friend from over Aotearoa, and we've always said that if we're going to tell our stories on an international level, we've got to tell them ourselves. We can't have everybody else talking about us poor black fellas, us poor women who, us poor Aboriginal women who can't get it together. Well, you know what? We can. We're empowered to do that and surround ourselves with other good mob who were there ready to work for us. So during these, so that was in 2018. And so we had our first gathering here in New South Wales at the University of New South Wales, where we had the Gender Violence Research Network, where an awesome group of women supported us and us leading our own response and building a network. The next year we were in New Zealand, Aotearoa. After that we went to Queensland, Fiji, and we went back to the CSW and presented and met with the First Nations women in the New York, Shinnecock women in the New York region, New York City region. So it was, it's just been an amazing journey as First Nations women, for us having our own voice, being safe in that, knowing that when I walk into my house is a safe place, feeling free to be able to walk up and if something's not going right for us, have the ability to say, well, this hurts, it doesn't feel good, whether it's with wider society or even with family. We have to say, I'm opting out of this. It doesn't feel good. I feel unsafe. And that's not to say that, some relatives you'll love from a distance. And that's just the way it goes. And, we all got that right. We don't have to be loaded up within a violent environment because that's our family, or I've got to go to that job because where am I going to get money from? We do have choices and we do have rights, and I couldn't stress it enough to everybody understand. You deserve to be able to lay your head down on a pillow at night and feel a sense of safety and a sense of life's going to be okay, and having a strong network of people around. There are many organisations out there, Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal organisations, who are prepared to support and be on a journey with you in finding the safety you need. Whether you're going through a whole homelessness path that hopefully it does not last forever, whether your insecurities about your parenting, that you need to have a yarn to someone about parenting, we can do this. There's so many really deadly people who are, they might just be on one part of your journey, from getting into a safe house. Thank you. You helped me get into a safe house. Now I've got kids I want to rear up. What are the things that I need to help me? And not be afraid to reach out. And because at the end of the day, the police, the DCJs, the docs officers, they haven't got all the answers for us. We have to find the answers within. And with that, we've got a network with good mob who are going to help us do that, going to support us in acquiring the goals we need to for us having a safer lifestyle. Working in this area has been it's been so valuable to me. It's not about me getting out there. I've been able to grow and not just getting out there and certainly not telling people, but actually sharing good moments of what our truth looks like for us, where we can go and get the right support. So it's been a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to be and do this throughout my whole life. And I see myself as probably, I don't know if I'll ever retire, but nothing is more beautiful than seeing a mum and dad doing the best they can that come from our families and looking after their children and ensuring their children get educated, get to have good lives, and know that they can go and get support. We have so many different organisations that can help you with the various things that may be happening in your life. And I say to anybody, don't be afraid to reach out. Don't be afraid to say, this hurts. I feel like I've got to go and have a yarn to someone. And if you don't want to go into an office, going into an organisation, you can certainly ring up and have a yarn on the phone. And hopefully the online numbers that the Dean may put up here for you is where you can go and say, hey, I just need to have a talk to someone about what's happening for me. And you're safe, and you feel okay about it. When it comes to sharing your story, I think it's important to know that you want to do it with someone who's going to handle your story with integrity and listen in confidentiality. Your story is not for the world until you're prepared to tell it. I say that to everybody. You are the expert on your own life. And if you don't want your story told, that's okay. You don't have to. But if you need to, certainly not told publicly. And, if someone's working with you and you need the ultimate confidentiality, ensure you let them know that. And if you don't feel that you're receiving that, there is a pathway to find someone who can do that for you, and for those who may at any time breach your confidentiality, for those to be accountable for that through their workplaces, of course. Talking safely to mob for me and has been is something that I can honestly say I humbly take any sharing of anybody. I take it with the utmost respect, and I do feel very grateful that people can trust me with that. And I wouldn't exchange that for anything. When you come from a lot of stuff where there was so much distrust, trusting becomes the gold, whether you're the person listening about it or listening around a story or the person giving the story. Trust is very, very valued to me. Trust and doing stuff with a bit of integrity. If you're going to get yourself from A to B, you want to get there safely. And if you're going to support someone doing it, that too has to be done in the most safe and kind way. I won't say loving way, but you got to use a lot of kindness, and that kindness doesn't just of you displaying that. The kindness has to come from you giving that too. So every day I get up, have my morning coffee, look at my little balcony garden, and know that it's going to be another beautiful day, and that being kind and respectful to people is something that I value in my life. It's a value that I can really articulate a lot better now. As a young person coming out of trauma, I could never ever, who had experienced a lot of trauma, I could never say how I felt. All I knew is that I didn't like violence. I didn't like being screamed at, and I didn't like not being able to have a sleep for fear of the violence that had erupted, in the house. So that type of experience never ever left me. So I'm always conscious that if I'm out there sharing and doing what I do with people, that I always keep that in mind, that we all deserve that. We all deserve the safety. Our history of families being ripped apart, families, being moved from one side of the continent to the other, has had really damaging effect on all of us. For us to be able to reflect and understand that, we know we have to be kind to each other today in this world when we're moving through life. So you'll find your safe people wherever you may be. There are safe people, and don't forget, you do have hotlines that you can jump on and have a yarn to someone and express what you need to get done. But once you find that sense of peace, you feel so empowered to think, like, because you can go home to your little safe house. You can say, oh, this is enough. And you'll set your boundary at what is acceptable for you and what is not acceptable. I feel good being able to say that at 65, but I sure as God couldn't say it when I was a 16-year-old girl. And having this little opportunity to share that with you, I hope that people will know that we're all worth something. We live in a beautiful, beautiful country, and hopefully we are moving forward to be able to look at each other and say, I respect you, I care about you, and if there's something going on, I'm just going to say, hey, okay, Dean.
Sorry, sir. Yeah, that was awesome. Appreciate that. Got a few quick questions, if that's okay. I feel like you've covered a bit. Like, what should people think about before sharing someone else's story? Like, I mentioned, like, if it's your story, you have the rights, but like, what about other people? They need it, obviously, from a legal perspective, but from a cultural perspective.
From a cultural, so if someone, definitely, if there's abuse in related to children, and can you hear me? Yep. And a child comes and says, hey, auntie, or hey, nan, this has happened. Of course, you've got to respond to that. If a young person comes and says to you they're feeling insecure about something, or oh, I don't like mum's boyfriend, whatever, yes, of course you've got to respond to that. And when you are going to respond, make sure you got yourself, you're safe, and you've got safe people around you. It can be very confronting for the person who may be the perpetrator, and especially if they're have that sort of bully persona around. So that's got to be understood. If you're someone who's concerned about if you're an ACLO at the school and you're seeing stuff that's going on and with one of the little kiddies, then that'll be talking to someone who's trustworthy and that they can help if they need to ask questions of the family, or whether they indeed have to move forward and report anything that may be needed. So it does depend on the circumstances. If there's a whole bunch of stuff, I mean, social media has gone hectic on us, and anybody who uses social media can understand that. There's way too much of the violence that's perpetrated in our community is just out there as fodder. I don't know what else I can see. Clickbait. Look at this. Everybody's having a big fight. Let's put this on. Anybody who knows, we are the biggest use of social media. We get out there, we take advantage of it. So with social media comes the good and the bad. It's great to be connected, but how are we connecting? I think that's a really big thing that we have to be mindful of, and it's getting more and more complex as social media grows, and how these programs that are infiltrated into your everyday use of social media and how that's used is so I just think that everybody has to go and do a little bit of introduction around what abuse looks like on social media. Where I'm involved in something being developed at this point, so that it's going to be a little bit more Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander friendly. We do have the E-Safety Commission. They have a bit of training there for young people or for older people who are observing young people maybe using social media not in a good way. because that unfortunately does break a lot of confidentialities, relaying people's stories, putting them out there. Do you have permission to tell a story repeatedly and say who that person is? And you know, all you're doing is passing on particular yarn, as we would say, inappropriate yarns. Yeah. So I think there's a lot to be said about how we be safe and how we move through that. And I will keep you in touch, Dean, when we do have our little video done around what it can look like, and how our stories are our stories. And we are moving into that. Like even today, my sharing with you, there's a certain data, everything I've shared, I wanted to share. And there's a certain data sovereignty that you have as the person taking care of the stories of strength. And I'd certainly trust that. I've said everything I wanted to say. I don't feel anything's been breached or anything like that. And I'll certainly give permission for you to relay, or play it up how you do it. So I hope that answered your question a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. The whole thing's been amazing, and please do share the resources. Keen to
Yeah.
check them out. And I guess the final thing would be just what would you want Aboriginal community members, or support services, or allies to remember from this session?
I think people just remember that had a beautiful saying by one of the. I did a program yesterday, a bit of a little community education, and one of the women said, "Everybody just be respectful. You don't know how anybody's feeling on any day. So if you're feeling exhausted and you've got to front up at the desk, remember that someone walking in seeking help, they probably took a lot for them to walk over the threshold. So if you're feeling like, oh, I don't really want to talk to anybody, maybe do a little quick swap over with another worker for an hour or so. And just, as the saying is, you never know what anybody's carrying around on their back, or in their backpack of emotions on any given day. And it's something that we've got to be respectful. So just that respect and that caring and sharing, especially if you are working in the sector, especially encountering family. And if stuff's too much for you, well, we've got to say that's too much. I can't deal with that today, and not be afraid to say it instead of sitting and dwelling in it and getting all caught up and then getting angry about how you respond to someone who's not having a good time not having a good day. I hope that makes a bit of sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, especially in this day and age, it's hard to have that social awareness because everything's very fast-paced and self-centered. So yeah,
it certainly is. And we're social mob, but we're very relationship people, We have relationship with friends, we have relationships with family that at times may not always, be in line. And sometimes we'll just say, well, actually, I love you and I love you from a distance, You've been my friend, but I think that our pathways are going a bit different, And I think the best thing anybody can give another person every day, which I know I try to do, is how are you, and give them a smile and a little bit of engagement. And, you see them the next time, they pick you up when they're saying, oh, hey, how you going, Aunty Dixie, what are you doing? And I feel good. I think, I'll sit down the front of my apartment block and I'll say hello to somebody and it'll make my day. Yeah.
that's amazing. We need more people like you out there. So yeah, thanks again, Mel. It's been amazing. I'm looking forward to seeing the resources you create, the videos and stuff when you share it.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to share it to you, Dean. You're on my list. You're on my hit list.
No,
Okay.
yeah, I'm keen. I'm happily subscribed to the list. So, but yeah, really appreciate the care and strength you brought to this conversation. And yeah, you mentioned it before, but if anybody's watching this when we post it, if you're in immediate danger, you feel comfortable, obviously 000 or the support services out there like 13-9, 1800 Respect or Lifeline, or people like yourself. A lot of people out there that want to help, and and make things better. So yeah, we'll now close things, but yeah, thanks again for contributing to Stories of Strength.
Yeah, thank you so much, and I appreciate it having to have that yarn, and I'll talk to you all later. Thank you,
Thank you.
Ben. Thank you so much. Okay.